Namaste. Today we look at the life and teachings of Sri Jiddu Krishnamurti, who is also popularly known as K. To understand the person, we first start with a brief bio starting from his birth. So Jiddu Krishnamurti was born in Madanapalli near Madras on May 11, 1895. He was one among several children that his parents had, and by a strange quirk of fate, he lost his mother when he was quite young, and his father was working as a government officer near Madras. However, after Jiddu's mother died, his father Narayana moved to what is called as the campus of Theosophical Society head office or headquarters in India, which was at a place known as Adyar near Madras. So as a result of this decision, Jiddu started living in the campus of Theosophical Society. Very soon after this, Jiddu Krishnamurti was spotted by some of the leaders of this Theosophical Society. And when he was first noticed or spotted, it was felt that this boy had an aura of a unique kind, which, according to the Theosophical Society leaders, belonged to great spiritual teachers. And that is how an interesting twist to his life started. Now we look at some of the unique things that Jiddu did after his journey into this domain of spiritual teacher started. So I will take you briefly into what happened. So as we discussed, after having moved to the head office of the Theosophical Society campus at Adyar and having spotted as potentially a world teacher, Jiddu was mentored by Mrs. Annie Besant, who was one of the leaders of the Theosophical Society. And very soon, almost all of the Theosophical Society leaders started believing that Jiddu had some special aura which is only carried by great teachers of the human society. After a few years, his main mentor, Mrs. Annie Besant, proclaimed that Jiddu is the world teacher who has arrived. And gradually afterwards, a very large organization with a very large following was built with him at the top as the leader, projected leader, and this organization was named the Order of the Star. And it was assumed that Jiddu Krishnamurti will work through this large organization and will work in the conventional manner in which spiritual organizations or religious organizations work. However, much to everyone's surprise and also to the disciples' dismay, Jiddu in a speech dissolved this organization. Yes, he dissolved the Order of the Star in August 1929. And while dissolving this organization, which was built under him by the leaders of the Theosophical Society, he proclaimed some of his important teachings on the day. And I want you to read and understand these words because this is the core of his teachings. Truth is a pathless land and you cannot approach it by any path whatsoever, by any religion, by any sect. Truth, being limitless, unconditioned, unapproachable by any path whatsoever, cannot be organized, nor should any organization be formed to lead or to coerce people along any path. So friends, this is what Jiddu Krishnamurti said on the day of dissolution of the Order of the Star organization. It is very important to understand the core of his philosophy which is expressed in this statement. Truth is a pathless land. He essentially is saying that any kind of organization or attempts to organize the so-called truth or to organize the so-called divine is a disservice to understand it. And I think as we move ahead in the presentation, I will try my best to make clear the points which I have understood from my study of Jiddu Krishnamurti books. Now let us look at some of the sayings which capture the essence of his teachings. Here's one. Truth is within yourself. So as you can see, he is trying to emphasize that for knowing the truth, one does not depend on organizations. On the contrary, one actually seeks the truth which is found within oneself. And also look at the second one. Knowing yourself is the beginning of meditation. So he is saying that the factor which is most important in meditation is that you start to know yourself. How does one start to know oneself is something I'll cover in the next slide. Now coming to the third of his sayings which we have sampled here. There can be freedom from fear only when there is self-knowledge. So he is making clear his idea that you cannot escape from fear, you cannot hide from fear, you cannot hope to be rescued from fear. And if you want to overcome fear, you have to have self-knowledge. And the fourth one, if you have destroyed fear, you are spiritually fulfilled. So according to Jiddu Krishnamurti, fear is a major obstacle in self-knowledge. And he says that if one is able to destroy fear, then one is spiritually fulfilled, which means that the so-called goal of spiritual activities or meditation is fulfilled after one has destroyed the fear. Now we turn to the method that he has been saying or explaining in his various talks. So friends, Krishnamurti has spent many years speaking about his ideas on meditation, on God, on relationships, on fear, on violence, on religion, on education. And in fact, he has covered almost all the areas which are critical to the functioning of human society. And if you compare his teachings with other spiritual teachers, you would find that the main difference to begin with is that Krishnamurti did not want to form an organization around his teachings. And he was not in favor of organizing teachings or to provide teachings or to disseminate teachings through an organization. Now coming back to the method, he emphasized that the main benefit comes from awareness. And he said that awareness not only of outward things, but also of the inward movement of life. For example, the inward movement of desires, how one feels, what motivates oneself, what anxieties does one feel, how one fears, and how one is sad. So he is talking about an intense inner and outer observation as his main teaching. And he also emphasizes that observation has to be simple and direct. It cannot be a verbal observation where you are condemning, justifying, selecting, projecting on what you are observing. So he calls this as choiceless awareness. This was his key teaching, key method. So we move on to the next noteworthy thing about his teachings. So what does K say on awareness? Because all his teachings are primarily based on inculcating choiceless awareness. I'll read out one of his statements. When you are aware, you see the whole process of your thinking and action. But it can happen only when there is no condemnation. When I condemn something, I do not understand it. And it is one way of avoiding any kind of understanding. Another saying of Jiddu Krishnamurti is, the important thing is to be aware from moment to moment without accumulating the experience which awareness brings. So I'll try to explain these two sayings of Jiddu Krishnamurti. Basically, he underscored choiceless awareness, where he professed that only when you watch your mind's actions, mind's feelings, mind's thinkings and thoughts can you see the reality. So he's saying that I will not tell you what is real or what is the truth or what is God or who is God, but I will suggest you or I will showcase to you that unless you observe yourself internally and externally by watching your actions and watching your thinking, you will not see the reality or the truth. This is his core philosophy, and he adds to this that if you are constantly chattering about things, if you are thinking in the mind while you're seeing, then you are not doing justice to the awareness. Now, one of the topics which Krishnamurti has spoken extensively on is his teaching on ending fear. So he says, fear does not exist in isolation. It is always in relation to something. We can see that fear comes into being when our comprehension of relationship is not complete. He underscored this several times in his hundreds and thousands of talks, that relationship is the mirror in which you see yourself. You cannot be ever isolated. In fact, he said that even the sannyasis who try to leave the world ultimately are related. So he says, relationship is not only between people, but between ourselves and nature, between ourselves and property, between ourselves and ideas. So basically he's saying that one is always related, and fear comes or arises when this understanding of the relationship one is in is not complete. This is the origin of fear, according to Jiddu Krishnamurti. Now, what is he saying on the solution? Let me read it out. The moment you give name to that which you call fear, you strengthen it. But if you look at that feeling without terming it, you will see that it withers away. This is basically his core solution side of his teachings, where he says that you just have to watch it. As an observer, if you watch, you will transcend. So if you watch fear, if you stop naming fear, if you stop giving words to fear, if you stop classifying fear, if you stop repeating that, oh, I am fearful. So this verbalization, this classification, this naming experience which goes on in the mind, he says that this is precisely the reason why the feeling of fear is perpetuated and it goes on and one cannot overcome fear. But if someone just observes fear as the feeling is arising, if one is observing very, very carefully that feeling of fear as it arises, not through memory, but as it arises, automatically the being will transcend fear. This is what he says on ending fear. And his teaching on the unknown is also quite unique. He talks repeatedly about the unknown. I think Krishnamurti was not very fond of the regular interpretation that is given to the God concept. He went at great lengths to show people the sacred nature of the divine. Instead of interpreting the greatness of God into shallow meanings, into divisions of religion and other groupings, he wanted to shun all of those classifications and wanted to give an alternative, grand view of God. But he was not keen on explaining what is God or to give a description of God. But he was essentially saying that if you face your fears, if you end your fears, if you are carefully observing yourself, your actions, your thoughts, your intentions, your feelings, then in that process, you will discover the unknown. You will discover the truth. You will discover the reality and you will find God. So Krishnamurti refused to say that God is this, God is that, and he pushed people to find God by observing what is happening inside and outside them. He did not explain who is God or what is God and what is the power, but he accepted clearly that there is a divine power, but the approach to the divine power is not through imagery, not through books, but by self-knowledge. And he says about the unknown that the mind is limited in the sense that it moves from one known to the next known. So mind is kind of jumping from one known to the next known. Definitely mind transforms the previous knowledge into new knowledge, but essentially, philosophically speaking, mind moves from known to the known. And according to Krishnamurti, the mind cannot reach out into the unknown. By unknown, Krishnamurti refers to essentially the divine God, to the reality, to the truth, which we cannot see with our chattering mind. And to quote him, Thought cannot come upon the new, but when thought is silent, then there may be the new. Thought cannot penetrate into the unknown, and so it can never discover or experience reality. When the whole consciousness is silent and tranquil, free from all becoming, which is spontaneity, then only does the immeasurable come into being. So this is his offering with respect to the immeasurable, with respect to the divine, with respect to the God, as we call in usual terms. He is saying that by thinking you cannot see or approach God, because thoughts are limited. Thoughts can only operate on the known. But what is immeasurable, what is grand, what is infinite and also unknown cannot be understood by thought. So for example, if something is written in English alphabets, then you can only understand the words if you know the ABCD or the alphabets as it is called. But if something is written in the language which you do not know alphabets to, then you cannot understand what is written. So similarly, if the divine power is immeasurably large and big, then how can mind and thought understand that reality? This is his core offering on understanding the reality. And many people, even today and at that point when he was alive, used to question him on whether he believed in God or not. And I think this is an interesting discussion in today's world also. So I want to spend a few minutes here because I believe that Krishnamurti had a good point which many of us can benefit from. So Krishnamurti never said that there is no God, or that he did not believe in a God, or that the world is random, or that the world is run by laws as science tells us. But he basically shunned the idea of accepting whatever comes to you in terms of the definition of God. So he said that if you start accepting and believing in someone else's definition of God, then you are not doing the real job of finding God. So he said that to believe in God, and mark that word believe, is not to find God. So he is saying that if you are really sincere about finding the divine truth, then you have to find. You can't just accept what is floating around in terms of the concept of God. It may be true or it may not be true. But if you are sincere about it, then you will definitely find out. That is what he said when he was questioned on belief in God. Let me quote him from one of his talks. Neither the believer nor the non-believer will find God, because reality is the unknown, and your belief or non-belief in the unknown is merely a self-projection and therefore not real. God is not the word, and the word is not the thing. To know that which is immeasurable, which is not of time, the mind must be free of time, which means the mind must be free from all thought, from all ideas about God. So he's saying that the idea of God is not God. So if you keep on thinking about the idea of God, you will never experience the real God. And I think it's quite reasonable to understand what he was trying to say. Another quote which I would like to read out. Only when the mind is completely silent, only then can the unknown come into being. So he is saying that the mighty, immeasurable power, which we call truth or God, is not our concept of it or what we read about in the books or what we hear in our society. He is saying that the mind has to be completely silent before it can try to understand the vast power of the unknown, the immeasurable truth, as we call it. So, this is what his main teachings were, and I think he has written over 50 books, tremendous journeys all over the world to try to educate what he believed about the society, education, violence. And I think he traveled extensively trying to convey these ideas to people. In case you are interested in finding out more about his teachings, I have listed some of the books here, and from my own experience, you can read them in that order if you are not familiar with Tintu's teachings already. And below there are some links which are also good repositories and resources about knowing more about Jiddu Krishnamurti. So I hope I did justice to your time, and I hope you benefit from spirit of learning and wisdom. Namaste.